I did not buy this panel. It is totally not my style. However, I've been challenged. I'm doing a panel throwdown. You are not going to recognize it, so take a good look at it now. It won't look like this when I'm finished. Hi, I'm Di with Sister Chicks Quilting. Welcome to my channel. As I said earlier, it's definitely not one that I would purchase. It's just not my style, but I have to make something out of it. Now, this came from Leana, who is the Pastry Queen's Farm Adventures. She also invited April from April Story and Lynne from Soft Squares. There will be links to their videos in my video down below. But what am I going to do with this? Here's what she gave me with it. She included some extra fabric that has honeycomb on it because there is that chicken wire. Oh, whoops. Chicken wire on it because there's chicken wire in here. And it's okay. But I am going to add this to it. I think it blends well. This is going to be the background fabric. I'm hoping that you won't even recognize this fabric panel when I'm done with it. The first thing I'm going to do is slice this bad boy up. I will cut 2.5-inch strips. And I don't need to line anything up other than I want a square 2.5-inch strip. I am going to cut the entire panel into 2.5-inch strips. I don't know how big my quilt is going to be after I get it done. But like I said, you're not going to recognize it. I'm going to lay this over like so. There's the straight edge, and this will give me one more strip. All right, let's see what I've made. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 17 strips. What shall I do with this? Already it's looking different, don't you think? This is my background fabric. I'm going to want some 2.5-inch strips as well. It's always faster to do strip piecing, so I'm going to incorporate some strip piecing. I've taken my foot off so I can have better access. I'm going to make a little dam here. You can make it with either painter's tape, but this is rather thick, or I'm going to use washi tape because I have a ton of it. This is cute with these feathers on, isn't it? Now I have a piece of washi tape already down, and I'm using that one as a marker, putting it right next to the 1/4-inch line on my sewing machine. I want a little wall here because I'm going to be sewing at the speed of light and I don't want to make any mistakes. So this is just going to make a little wall to butt my fabric up against. All right? This machine is ready to rock and roll. Let's see. And this is what I'm going to have. Have you figured out what I'm making yet? Keep figuring. I think that background blends in wonderfully with this fabric. Now that I have my strips sewn, I'm going to press them on the Laura Star. I can't tell you how incredible this iron is. And yes, I know it's very expensive, but I feel like it's something that I can't quilt without. It has just made such a difference in my quilting and pressing. Look at that seam. And it's pressed flat like that on the other side. Notice I'm not setting the seam. Actually, there's no need to. And again, this steam is heated twice. It's heated down in the boiler and it's heated here. But look at this. Can you see that steam? It's, they call it a dry steam, though I know you're saying there's no such thing. But because it's heated twice, it takes a lot of the heat out of it. And then this magic ironing board with the fan on it cools everything down so well. This is one iron that I will always have and never live without. After I cut this strip into 2.5-inch units, I'm going to put them together like this. Nice, right? You may be asking how many of these I'm going to do until I run out of fabric. I don't know. I'm gonna make this quilt as big as I can for what I have from the panel. This is a finished one, about 6.5 inches, just under 6.5 inches. So what I'm gonna also do is cut out of the background 6.5-inch squares. And you guys know what I'm gonna do, don't you? You're reading my mind because you're a bunch of mind readers. Anyway, that's how I'm gonna make this panel, and I think it's gonna be really cute. I can't believe how good this background fabric matte. And lo and behold, look what happened. It's just the perfect background color for this panel. I'm gonna go to 9 patch heaven and sew a bunch of them. One thing I want to point out that the Lorastar does, it does not shrink fabric. That's the most amazing thing to me. These are 2.5-inch squares when I started, and they're 2.5-inch squares when I end up. Look at those beautiful backs. I'm going to be cutting 6.5-inch strips. The engineer is downstairs, and all of a sudden this loud music started playing. And I said, "Hey, I'm filming. Please turn it off." Are you ready for this? It was an ice cream truck going by outside. I'm going to cut this into 6.5-inch squares. So now you can see what I'm making, right? I'm pulling out the old Irish chain trick. I have enough for 4 more. I want to show you something here. The one on the right, notice how much the blade cover comes up and covers the blade. That's because these are heavily used. And look at this one. It's hardly covering the blade at all, and I'm pushing it all the way up. That tells me that this is really dirty, but it's still a super sharp blade. So I don't want to change it or throw the blade away because it's working well. But I had one the other day that was like closing just like that. Can you see that? A little dangerous for me. And this one isn't closing much better. I bet you money when I take this off and do a little operation on it, it's going to be totally full of lint. Let's do that right now. First thing I'm going to do is throw my cleaner on the floor. But the first thing I'm going to do is clean around the nut. I'll do that on this one also. Turning this upside down, we'll drop the blade. And can you see down in here? Wow. I'm flipping it all over the place. There's a lot of dust that is just packed up down in there. Brushing it doesn't always get it out. And then there's this down here. This whole thing was plugged up with lint and it just wouldn't close. Now I'm going to brush my blade off. Put my blade back in. Oh, how about putting my blade in on the right side? That might help. Now, watch it close. Can you see that there's a lot of space up there to protect the blade from my finger? And look at everything that came out of it. Keep your blades clean. Okay, that was a total rabbit hole, but I thought you'd appreciate it. I'm not going to give you a ta-da because it is not done. And this isn't even a design wall. I don't want to just have a white wall behind me. And I have a picture here, so I just threw this quilt over it. That's what you're seeing. This is my no-waste windmill quilt. I love it. What do you think of this? Can you see the panel in there? I can't. I made an Irish chain. I think several of you had figured out that's where I was going, into the Irish chain venue. I love Irish chains. They're classic. And this is what I have left over of the panel fabric. I have this piece and one 9-patch. I'm not going to have enough to do a whole nother row, so I quit. But Leana, the Pastry Queen's Farm Adventures, sent this chicken wire fabric with it. And I don't know, do you think it's too yellow? Because I was thinking of doing this. The quilt would be a whole lot of yellow, but yellow is a really happy color. So I think I might like it, and it'll be a nice size. Right now I have 8 rows across and 10 rows down. And speaking of 10 rows, April is doing the same challenge. And I called her up and I go, "What are you doing?" And she was making new frames around all of the panels. But we sat and sewed together for a long time. We're just laughing about the predicaments that we get into. So she was getting ready to throw hers up on her design wall. And I said, well, I better put mine up too, because I was just finishing row number 9 and 10 when we were talking. I'm going to do the border. It won't take any time at all to do a border. I think it's going to really make this quilt cute. Or should I say this panel quilt cute. Off I go to the cutting table. To do the borders, I'm going to lay the quilt out, measure, and cut enough for borders for the sides and the top. And then I'll do the same, cut enough of this yellow for the border, unless I come up with another color of border, but I don't think there's one out there. You know, it's interesting, there's a lot of blues and greens, and I wish I had something rather than this yellow, because that would certainly look cute. Well, look at this. See the blue in it? Isn't that nice? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go look at my stash and see what I can come up with, because it may not be this yellow. There just may be too much yellow. The quilt is done, but before I show you the quilt, I want to thank a few people. Marianne Cadd. Marianne also came to my retreat, and she said she loved learning from everybody at the retreat, and from me too. That's why I love retreats. Marianne, thanks for sending me herb teas. And Delia, I'm happy to help. Thank you for asking. and for the herb tea. Ann Sittard, thank you for the herb tea. And all I have to say is, wow! She did a quilt with 2,300 pieces in it. Little tiny scrappy quilt. I'm excited, but I'm not there yet. Patty Weisorick, I hope I didn't mess up your name. Thank you so much for the herb teas, and I wish you lived closer too. In the comments on my last quilt, this little baby quilt, Tina Anderson wanted to know where she could find the video and the pattern for this quilt, my spool selvage quilt. Tina, I put a link to it in the description below the video. For those of you who don't know where to find the description, there's some words below each video. There's also a highlighted more. Click on that highlighted more and it will open up a full description, and scroll down and you will see what you're looking for. Also, Delcy wanted to know where she could find the video for the cuddle binding or minky binding. The same place in the description below the video. Then Chloe Morgan, Debbie Dobbins, and Joan Tabb all liked that I kept my quilt last week KISS, or keep it simple. I'm not going to say the other word that goes with it. But it was a fun, simple quilt, wasn't it? I want to remind everybody that Caterpillar is offering free shipping through Monday, which is Memorial Day. So if you want to order anything from Caterpillar, I have a link in the description below this video. And furthermore, if you use the coupon code capital all caps DICLUF, you're going to get an additional 15% off your entire order plus free shipping. I say it's time to go buy some Caterpillar products this weekend. Let's get to the quilt. I'm dying to show you the reveal. Oh, before I show you the reveal, this is my no waste windmill quilt that I personally use. Love, love, love it. Sorry, engineer. I will also put a link to this quilt in the description below. Ta-da! Can you believe that panel turned into this? I just couldn't do a traditional panel, but I took the challenge and I did it. I would like to thank Leana from the Pastry Queen's Farm Adventure. That's the name of her channel, and she's a quilter. She's the one that headed up this challenge, and she did a really good job of it. So thank you, Leana. I'm anxious to see what she's going to do. And then there was another YouTuber, Lynne from Soft Squares. I want to see what she did for her panel challenge too. We all four got the same panel. So the third one is April Story, whom you know from April's Craft Room, and then of course me. It'll be fun to see what everyone else made with their panel, and you ought to go check out their channels as well. Then if you like what you see on my channel, I would love it if you would subscribe. It's so much fun to hear from you, to read your comments. I just appreciate it so much. Now I've got to hurry off because I am busy planning another quilt for you for next week. Until then, bye. We'll see you later.